How we doing, everybody? And welcome into Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage. We're going to try something new. I haven't gone live very often. I'm going to try to go live more often here on Twitch, on Twitter. Going to try to get to Facebook a little bit there. But all in all, a great weekend of Wisconsin sports. And not so much for the Badgers, but Packers played well. Brewers, watching them right now here. They tied up in the ninth. Not a great end of this game for the Brewers, but all in all, a good series out there on the West Coast for the Brewers. So I want to get into a little bit of everything today here. I want to start with the Badgers, though. The Badgers, Alabama, it started out a lot better than what the end was. I mean, a lot of people, and myself included, heading into this game, I was sitting there like, this is not going to be much of a game, right? We knew this coming in. We tried to talk ourselves into it. We're like, it's possible. We watched that LSU game a few years back there. Badgers pulled off the win there. We all remember back to 2010 when Ohio State came to Camp Randall. And we felt like, maybe, just maybe, there's a 1% chance the Badgers somehow find a way here against Alabama. And, well, not so much. 42-10 was the final in this game. Not a great game, but there were bits and pieces of it that I liked. There were bits and pieces of this game that I was like, what could have changed? What could have gone differently? Maybe to make this game look more respectable. Right now, you're looking at this game 42-10. You're like, Badgers were never in this game, right? They were in this game. I mean, end of first quarter, it's 7-3, right? That second quarter, there was a moment in that second quarter, and I'm going to get more into this game here. We're going to look at the box. We're going to look at everything coming out of here. But there was a moment in this game where you thought for a second, we might be able to get the second half in this game, and the Badgers will be trailing, let's just say like 14-3, or even 14-10, right? At one point there, the Badgers had the ball. They were driving down the field, and a couple missed plays here and there. Badgers couldn't capitalize. Ended up, Alabama got the ball back after the missed field goal. They go down, score within 10 seconds? Seemed like it took like 10 seconds. They were in the end zone, and now we're looking at double dipping then. Badgers go down big. And from there on, it was a rout, right? So let's get into this one. Let's get into Badgers versus Alabama. Let's see what we thought of this one. So the Van Dyke injury early on in this game, right? He had the leg injury. The Badgers were driving to start this game. Got the ball first. You were like, okay, let's see what this Badger team can do against this defense. And the Badgers, right off the bat, I mean, first down, they had nice run play there. And they slowly started to work this ball, right? And then all of a sudden, Van Dyke gets injured. He gets a good gain, right? 5 yards there. Gets injured. Braden Locke comes in. The drive halts right there. The drive halted right there. They end it in a field goal, and there's the start of your game. If it wasn't bad enough heading into the game where you were worried, now you're bringing in your backup quarterback who has zero time this season, right? My big thing after watching the Western Michigan and South Dakota game, the problem was, those games were close. That was the biggest problem, right? But another thing that I felt was I needed to see like a Braden Locke come into one of those games, get some in-game reps, right? Because you can have all the scrimmages in the world. You can have all the in-game, you can have the joint practices, whatever you want. You can call it in the NFL, the joint practices. You get these moments where it's not quite game level yet. So Braden Locke coming into this one, especially against a pretty good Alabama defense, it worries you. So Braden Locke comes in, drive halts. There's your first kicker in this one. Not a good start to the game, right? Van Dyke goes out there. The mistakes that happened in this game. So they had the turnover on downs on the second drive of the game. What killed me the most was not the fact that it was a turnover on downs. Yes, it was a killer. It was a backbreaker right there, right? You had a fourth. It felt like a fourth and inches. It said 4th and 1. It was a 4th and inches. You ran it out of the shotgun. I don't understand that. That play call to me, I don't even know what it was. That was a terrible play call. It was terrible. Why are you setting up in the shotgun on 4th and 1 at midfield? You have the ability here to, smash it right down a QB sneak, right? Put Braden Locke under center, have him fall forward, right? It's 4th and inches. It felt like, honestly, 4th and inches because where they lined up that ball, heck, the ball might have been over the first down marker when it got snapped. So why are you running out of the shotgun? That was my first issue with that whole thing. So the turnover on downs, that was terrible. That was terrible play calling. At this point, I don't know if it's Phil Longo. I don't know if it's Luke Fickell telling Phil Longo what to do, but that was a terrible play call, whoever called that play. So the turnover on downs was huge. Then you have the Chesma Lucy fumble. This one, I mean, you just get started here. You're on your own 7. Your first play goes for 2 yards there. Then Malusi breaks one open, right? 21 yards. Great run by Malusi. And, I mean, Malachi Moore is a great safety. He's a great secondary guy for Alabama. Breaks down, knocks the ball out. Malusi fumbles it. Recovered by Alabama. Results in a touchdown. Backbreaker. That was a backbreaker right there. You're sitting in a game, you're 7-3, right? You just forced Alabama to punt. So your defense did its job. They got off the field, forced Alabama to punt the ball away, gave your ball, not great field position to start a drive, not by any means great field position to start a drive. But you have it. You get a big chunk play there from Malusi, lose the ball. Fumbles were a continuous problem throughout this game for the Badgers. You look at that one, fumble there, then the missed field goal that I just mentioned there earlier, late in that first half. The fumble there ends up a quick touchdown for Alabama heading the other way. It's 10 seconds. It was like maybe 10 seconds. I don't know. I'd have to look at that drive as a whole. Oh, let's see. Right there. 2 plays, 17 seconds. Okay, 17 seconds. It took 17 seconds for Alabama to get past your secondary. Now, my biggest question with that secondary was it seemed like early on in this game, the Badgers were doing the right thing, right? You had to take away something from Alabama. The big chunk plays were the thing where that was going to be the backbreaker, right? And it seemed like, I mean, Alabama in this game, I had a note, they had 5 passes for 20 or more yards in this game. 3 of those resulted in touchdowns. So 5 passes for over 20 yards, 3 touchdowns out of those drives. Those are backbreakers. You can't, if you're playing Alabama, the biggest thing that you have to, one thing that the Badgers can't do that Alabama can do, the big chunk plays. You had to limit those chunk plays in this game. If you got beat by Jalen Milroe going underneath, if you got beat by him and you had guys in front of you, guys in the box able to help tackle, it was fine and dandy, right? You wanted Alabama, if Alabama was going to beat you, you wanted them to play slow, methodical, work the ball down the field, not be able to break off those big plays, right? That was complete opposite, right? Alabama was able to get the big chunk plays against Wisconsin. They opened up holes. They found ways to beat the Badgers in more than one way, right? But you wanted them to beat you slow, methodical, limited. You wanted the time possession to be cranked up there. You didn't want your defense to stay on the field, but you didn't want to be off the field within seconds because you got beat in the secondary. So that was a big issue that I had, was seeing that out of defense. It wasn't even, you don't want to play a prevent D, right? But you can't let guys get over the top. I know Alabama's got really athletic wide receivers, right? They have some very good wide receivers out there. And you're going one-on-one with them. You don't have safety help at time over the top. And when you do have safety help, for some reason, they're playing a bubble zone that's below the deepest guy. So issue upon issues there in the secondary for the Badgers. That's something that I think Tressel's got to clean up here in the weeks moving forward, because Alabama exposed things with Wisconsin in that secondary in this game that I believe Penn State will be able to capitalize on. Oregon's going to want to do it. Raiola and Nebraska. Nebraska's finding their groove now, so you got to watch out for them. And USC loves to sling the ball around. That's who the Badgers have coming up next. They love to sling the ball around a little bit. You got to be watching for those big plays. So the big plays were definitely backbreakers in this game for Wisconsin. I mean, like I said, fumbles, turnovers. We talked about it in the pregame show, in the preview for the weekend show there. Turnovers were going to be backbreakers. They were going to be those ones where you could not afford to turn the ball over against Alabama. I mean, that's plain and simple. You could not afford to turn the ball over against Alabama. In this game, you had 4 fumbles. 2 of them came from Braden Locke, 1 from Malusi, and 1 from Cade Yakimelli. Now, you did recover the 2 from Braden Locke, so it wasn't like those were the end of the world. But protecting the football, one of those, I remember he got smoked in the backfield. He got blindsided, and those happen. I'm not going to say those don't happen. But the one by Malusi, the one by Yakimelli, both of those led to touchdowns. Not good news. Not good news. The turnover battle, you could not afford in a game like this to turn the ball over, and the Badgers did. And that set up good field position for Alabama. It killed momentum, any kind of momentum that the Badgers actually had in this game. It killed that, squashed that right off the board. So Wisconsin loses a turnover battle. That's something that it couldn't happen if you wanted to make this thing look close. And, well, we saw the outside of that. The offensive line for Wisconsin, I thought they played well in this game. I really did. I thought the offensive line, over the past couple weeks, I haven't seen what I've wanted to see out of the offensive line for the Badgers. And heading into this one, just from knowing and kind of seeing what I did against South Dakota and Western Michigan, I went into this game and I was like, that defensive front for Alabama, they're going to feast. Like, it's going to be hard for Malusi or Walker or anybody else, Cade Yakamele, or, I mean, anybody coming out of that backfield to find a hole to make anything happen. And I honestly thought that the offensive line did their job. They played well against this defensive front for Alabama. They opened up holes for the run game. They held their own in the pass game. I thought at times Braden Locke actually held onto the ball too long. If that's the thing, right? For me, it seemed like he held onto the ball too long. You gotta, you have that split second to make. Your offensive line can only hold for so long, right? It's not like it's not like it's a wall, right? They're gonna hold for so long, and then you got to make a decision. And I thought Braden Locke at times was shaky making those decisions. He wasn't quick with it, right? Either you got to find somebody, or you got to bail out of there, or you got to throw the ball away. You have options right there, but you got to be quick with it. You got to make quick reads. You got to do that. Now, that could be a lot, like I said, with Braden Locke getting little to no in-game reps, right? Going back to last year. I mean, you look at Braden Locke, the 2 times he's been tossed in now. Tanner Mordecai gets hurt. Van Dyke gets hurt. Braden Locke gets entered in mid-game, whatever it is. He's got to try and figure it out from there on. Getting thrown in against Alabama, that's a different kind of animal. So right away, him trying to adjust into this game definitely slowed down Wisconsin. It wasn't like they were moving the ball at will, right? I'm not out here saying that Wisconsin was just flying down the field, but Braden Locke, there was some momentum there. Braden Locke comes in, and it's like the timing wasn't there. He wasn't in rhythm. He wasn't seeing it right away, and it just all halted. It just all halted early. I thought he found his groove. It took a while, but he found somewhat of a groove there. And once he did, it wasn't as bad, but the Badgers it was falling behind so fast. They couldn't keep up, and it was just a disaster. So that was a struggle. But the offensive line as a whole, for me, I was impressed. I was impressed by the offensive line against a very good defensive front who, I mean, Alabama was throwing different schemes, different packages. They were putting pressure in there. They were blitzing up the wazoo against Wisconsin. They were putting pressure on Locke in this game. They were throwing different schemes and pressures in there, and the offensive line held their own. So I loved what I saw out of Wisconsin's offensive line in this game. Yes, there were some pressures. Yes, there were some hurries. I really, like I said, though, I really think that part of, that situation was Braden Locke holding onto the football too long for me. For me, it was Braden Locke holding onto the football too long. So there was my offensive line wrap up there. The defense, I thought played well in the first quarter. They had some moments throughout this game where the defense did play well. They got themselves off the field a couple times. They set up the offense with some decent field position, decent situations. They forced Alabama to punt a couple times there in that first half. I mean, you look at them right away. They kicked the field goal, then missed field goal by Alabama. So you're like, okay, here we go. And then came the turnover on downs. So you had the momentum. You're up 3-0. It's not a big lead by any means, but you get the ball back. Your defense creates a stop, gets Alabama to kick a field goal. They end up missing it. You start your drive. You turn the ball over. Turnover on downs. Then you give up. Alabama goes down, scores a touchdown. 7-3. But then you punt it away. The defense forces Alabama to punt it right back to you. But what happens? What happens right after that? A fumble by Wisconsin, which leads to a touchdown by Alabama. The defense held its own for a little bit in this game, and in those moments, the offense could not find a way to sustain drives, to be able to put something together and be able to put points up on the board in this game. I thought Will Pauling had a good day for Wisconsin. Looking at his stat line coming out of this one, he had 9 catches, 83 yards, 1 touchdown. He actually, I thought Will Pauling, and he actually impressed me in this game, created some pretty good separation from a very good secondary, a young but good secondary for Alabama. Will Pauling was able to make separation. He was able to make things happen. And I was ultimately impressed by Will Pauling in this game. He had one. It was on that drive with the missed field goal that he was just overshot by maybe a foot. And otherwise, that's a touchdown. We might be talking about a different first half for Wisconsin. Instead, quick turnaround. Alabama goes down and scores, and the route was on. So Will Pauling, to me, good day for Will Pauling there. All in all, though, I mean, the biggest backbreaker to me in this game, because there was, 42-10. There's not a lot good that happened. But the biggest backbreaker for me in this game was Alabama, end of the first half, being able to punch it in the end zone, and then coming out in the second half, touchdown, right? You had basically boom, boom. You were down big time then, 28-3 at that point. The route was on. It was over, right? You were not scoring at will. You couldn't find a way to drive. It was over at that point. And the Badgers did get it 28-10. So at that point, you were like, okay, maybe we can make this game look respectable. Downhill slope in that one. So let's look at the box. Let's check out the box for this game. See who played well, who didn't play well for Wisconsin. So Braden Locke, he goes 13 for 26, 125 yards and a touchdown. Did, for the most part, a decent job coming in there for Tyler Van Dyke. The crappy part is Van Dyke was 5 for 5 with, I'm getting Brewer updates as we go here. I'm getting Brewer updates. They're playing well right now. They got the lead there in extra innings. But Tyler Van Dyke, he was 5 for 5, 16 yards through the air. Not a good start. Like I said, like Tyler Van Dyke came out. He looked good to start. You were sitting there like, okay, here we go. We might be able to sustain a first drive. And then, bam, gone. So Van Dyke has a decent day before getting injured. Braden Locke, he has a okay day. Not a great day, but an okay day. I'm not going to tell you right now that Braden Locke played the greatest days ever. But what I can say is that Braden Locke, he's not terrible. I saw a lot of people there, Braden Locke this, Braden Locke that. He's not good at all, blah, blah. It's like, I truthfully don't think that the Braden Locke story is done. I think he's a good quarterback. I just think he got tossed into a situation where it was, we haven't seen this guy get any in-game reps yet. He's getting thrown against one of the better defenses in college football, a powerhouse in Alabama. The pressure's all there, right? And yes, you can say, well, the greatest quarterbacks don't feel the pressure. He's not the greatest quarterback, right? He's a quarterback at Wisconsin. When was the last time we had one of the greatest quarterbacks at Wisconsin? I'll wait. He came in a tough spot and tried, had to try and figure it out. And you would want him to be more ready to go. I get that. But maybe, just maybe, I don't know the Tyler Van Dyke complete, like when he's going to be back, anything like that. But Braden Locke comes in. If this game, if he can slowly get more in-game reps as we go, this next week coming up at USC, he gets, he knows he's a starter. He's getting the reps with the ones during practice. He goes out there against USC, shows us a decent game, and then he just progresses as the season goes on. You feel better, right? Now, if it's the flip side, he comes out against USC and it's just a complete dumpster fire. Okay, now we're like, we might need to go back and go to the third string now. We might have to drop it even farther here and go to the freshman. But as of right now, I'm not sitting here telling you that Braden Locke needs to be gone. Like, it's going to take a minute. Maybe he finds himself. We'll wait and see that. So looking at the running back room, Malusi, 11 carries for 66 yards. Not a bad day from Malusi there. He had that big run, but it ended in a fumble. Cade Yakamele, 8 carries for 39 yards. Tyree Walker, 11 carries for 26 yards. Tyree Walker, sometimes when I watch him, and I don't know if it's just me, but sometimes when I watch him, it's like he has trouble his vision isn't as good as what you would hope, because he has a trouble finding, the offensive line will open up a hole here or a hole there, and it's like he has trouble finding the hole, right? That's basically all I can say there. He's got trouble finding the hole. I was trying to avoid that, but he's got trouble finding the hole at times, it seems like. So Tyree Walker, he goes for 11 carries for 26 yards. Dupree got in there a little bit, 8 carries for 24 yards. Good to see. These are some promising backs that the Badgers have coming in. I thought Dupree is going to have a good career at Wisconsin, so I can't wait to see what he starts to do there. Braden Locke, bad day rushing the football. 2 carries for negative 15 yards. I'm just that. That's not. He just was scrambling, but not a good stat line to have there. Not a good stat line, right? Outside of Pauling, I mentioned Pauling before. Vinny Anthony goes for 2. He has 2 catches for 29 yards, and then Bryson Green with 1 catch for 12 yards there. Malusi had 4 catches for 12 yards out of the backfield there. So not a lot going on either side for offense yards-wise in this one. I thought Leon Lowry stepped up big for the Badgers on defense. 5 tackles, 4 solo. He had a sack in this one. He had a tackle for a loss in this one. I liked what I saw out of Leon Lowry in this one. Aaron Witt played a good day for the Badgers there. 5 tackles, 4 solo, 2 tackles for losses in this one. Solid day for him there. All in all, the defense, I mean, there were moments in this game where they looked decent. You know, like we had questions about this defense. After South Dakota, after Western Michigan, there was questions about the defense up front. There was questions about, you know, the linebacker core for the Badgers, secondary a little bit here and there. I thought, you know, for the most part in this one, the Badgers didn't play bad on defense. It wasn't bad, right? It wasn't like they were complete run stoppers. You know, the pass game, they were like blanketing this entire team. It's not like we saw that. But from what I saw week 1 and 2 to what I saw against Alabama, that if that's what we have moving forward with slow growth in there, I think this Badger defense could be pretty good. I think they could be a good, respectable defense down the stretch. So I liked what I saw out of the defense in this one. Outside of the big plays, outside of allowing the big plays, I thought I really did think Wisconsin did well. You know, looking at the run game for Alabama in this one, 181 yards on the ground. Not great to be giving that up. Jalen Milroe ran all over him. I honestly, you know, the one thing that I looked at and I said, why didn't Wisconsin do this? Was put a QB spy, right? I don't know who you would have put. Maybe Leon Lowry. Maybe you would have had when Jake Chaney finally, I believe Jake Chaney did come back in and play in this game. Yeah, he did play in this game. When Jake Chaney got in there, you know, I don't know who you were going to put as a QB spy. But I thought, you know, putting a QB spy in there because there were moments in this game where the Badgers did get pressure up front, and Jalen Milroe, all he had to do was step up, get out of the pocket, and he was gone, right? And the Badgers, they would tackle him 15 yards downfield or whatever it was. His biggest carry there was for 26 yards. So that would be my one thing, looking at Wisconsin's defense in this one, why there was no QB spy. I would have put a QB spy in there. Try to keep Milroe, try to keep him on Milroe, try to keep him in that pocket and make him make a decision in there. And once he does go to bail the run, you have a guy in pursuit right away. That would have been one of the things I was looking at there with Wisconsin's defense. All in all, I mean, you look at the pass defense for the Badgers, it was the big plays. It was the big plays that really made the pass defense look bad. I mean, you had Ryan Williams had a 47-yard catch. You had the one for Bernard, who had a 26-yard catch. And then Shivas had a 37-yard catch. His only reception on the game was a 37-yard touchdown from Jalen Milroe. So that's where you look at the pass game. The pass game for Alabama is the big plays that made that. It was the big plays that made this pass offense for Alabama look like they just torched Wisconsin. Like 226 yards through the air. Their average was 14 yards. The big plays, right? Wisconsin had to avoid the big plays in this game. They didn't avoid the big plays. So that's where the issue came in that front. So that's enough with the box there. That's enough with the box. I mean, all in all, I'm not walking out of this Alabama-Wisconsin game saying, you know, a lot of people are like fire fickle. A lot of people are saying like Wisconsin is a dumpster fire. I'm not saying that Wisconsin isn't trend. They're not trending in the direction that I thought they were going to be. I'll completely like agree with that. I'm not going to say that this team is looking like they're improving from last season. But what I'll say is that this game, the final score in this game, there were a couple plays in this game where I look back on and I say this would look a lot more respectable if Chez Malusi didn't fumble that football. If Braden Locke doesn't overthrow Will Pauling by a foot. And then it's a touchdown instead of a missed field goal, which led to Alabama scoring to end the first half. There were so many ifs in this game that if this would have changed, if if this play would have happened, right? If that catch would have happened, if the missed field goal wouldn't have happened, we could be talking about a different outcome. Probably still a loss, but maybe a little bit more respectable, right? So I'm not coming out of this game saying the Badgers got completely destroyed, but I'm coming out of this game saying the Badgers, there is a big margin between what the Badgers did to start the year versus, they played Western Michigan, South Dakota, right? Barely beat them. They played Alabama, got routed. There's a big separation there. I don't know where the Badgers fit into it right now. I really don't. You got routed by Alabama. You barely won against two mid-level FBS. One's an FCS school. You got routed by them. So lots of question marks yet. Lots of question marks moving forward for the Badgers. As we watch the Brewers, bases loaded, bottom of the 10th, 10-9 the game here. Oh, bottom of the 10th here. Jair Canning's in some trouble. Devin Williams is warming up. Why isn't he in there to begin with? We don't know. But we're going to get to the Packers here before we even try to discuss Brewers here. We're going to get to the Packers-Colts recap from this weekend. Packers win. I mean, we were hoping, right? But there was always that question mark heading into this weekend about the Packers-Colts. What would Malik Willis look like in this game? How are the Packers going to do without Jordan Love? What was the defense going to look like? Well, 16-10. Packers pull off the win. Malik Willis did just enough. I mean, he did his job. What you expected out of Malik Willis in this game, he gave you, right? And the Packers' game plan from the get-go, you knew what they wanted to do. I mean, you're talking about a team, they had 53 carries in this game. You knew right off the bat, the Packers do not want to make Malik Willis try to beat the Colts with his arm. They didn't want that. They wanted Josh Jacobs, the offensive line. Maybe it was a combo, Jaden Reed getting involved in the run game, whatever it was. They wanted those guys to back up Malik Willis, to help Malik Willis in his first start. That's what we saw. And that was a fantastic game plan. It ended up being a fantastic game plan, right? It ended up being fantastic. Matt LaFleur, what he drew up in this game with the options, with, the straight QB draws, with the motions that he had in this game, kind of throwing the Colts defense off a little bit. I mean, a great game plan, I thought, in this one from Matt LaFleur. And 53 carries for 261 yards on the ground. Wow. And most of that was in the first half, right? Most of that was in the first half. I believe all but 37 of those yards were in the first half. If you're not impressed by running football, I was impressed in this one. The Badgers, I was just talking about the Badgers, now I'm back. The Packers in this one, that was smash mouth, stop us football right there. I loved it. I loved every second of it. They dared the Colts to stop them, and the Packers just ran it at will. I thought the line played well in this game. I thought the line played well for Green Bay. Now, we do see Jordan Morgan goes down with injury. Once again, we just get him back, right? He's finally getting healthy here, and he gets injured once again. And then we see Marshawn Lloyd coming back from injury for the Packers there. Promising running back, having a decent day for Green Bay. Ends up going down also with an injury, a lower body injury once again. Same thing that bothered him in training camp. Same thing that kept him out of week one. Makes his debut, gets injured again. Not great. Not great all the way around there on the injury front. But I thought the Packers offensive line played decent in this game. I thought there was, Josh Myers puking on the ball. That was something. That was something. As we see Jared Canning give up a walk-off. Yeah, fantastic. Why isn't Devin Williams in there? That's what I want to know. But off topic, right? But we see the offensive line play well. Josh Myers throws up on the ball. That was a little weird, a little gross, not going to lie. That was the funniest thing that I heard was when Matt LaFleur was talking about that, and it was like a 3rd and long or something like that. And he asked Malik Willis, he's like, why didn't you throw the ball there? Like it wasn't a run play. Why didn't you throw the ball? And he's like, Josh puked on the ball before that, and I didn't want to try and throw it. And it's like, are you serious? Then you watch the video back. It's like, oh man, like straight up pukes on the ball, snaps it. I mean, dedication, man, dedication. He's like, well, should we stop it then next time? Send him off? Looks like, yeah. Matt LaFleur's like, yeah, send him off the field next time. Like, that's a situation where you send him off the field. Just a weird. I mean, I've seen guys throw up before, right, on the football field. I've seen pitchers throw up watching baseball before, but I can't say that I've ever watched a center puke on a football and then snap it. I can't say I've ever seen that one. So that was an interesting thing coming out of there. But Josh Myers, yeah, that situation. But the offensive line plays well. There were still penalties. Penalties in this game. The Packers had 6 of them for 50 yards. A couple of ineligible men downfield. A couple of them were holding calls. Well, you knew it was like one drive. Packers was like, it was that drive early on in the game. I think it might have been one of the first drives. And it was like 1st and 10. They rattled off a big gain, got called back for an ineligible man downfield. And then they had another big gain, called back for a holding. It's like, are you serious right now? Like 1st and 20 now. It was 1st and 20. They ended up getting some yards back there. But just penalties continue to be an issue for the Packers, and something that you got to clean up moving forward there. Something you got to clean up, but 6 penalties on the game there for 50 yards definitely did not help any situations, but all in all, not as bad as what it was down in Brazil. So you'll take a win with a loss there, right? You'll take a win with a loss. So Packers, penalty-wise, not great there. Turnover margin. That's a good part of this game. Colts, 3 turnovers, 3 picks, right? McKinney with a pick there. Wilson had a pick, and I believe Evan Williams had that. Yeah, Evan Williams had that pick there to end the game. So turnover battle won by Green Bay, something that you had to see. The thing that I love to see, I love seeing time of possession. Packers, 40 minutes. 40 minutes they had the football in this game. Colts, 19. Almost 20, right? 19-49, right? Love to see that. And that had a lot to do with, like we just mentioned there earlier, the 53 times on the ground, right? They were just playing smash mouth, keep the football as long as we can. Now, there were different situations, right, where the Packers could have made this game look a little bit different, right? The Josh Jacobs had a good day. So when I say this, don't get me wrong, Josh Jacobs had a great day. 32 carries, 151 yards. A lot of that happening in the first half, right? He was a workhorse in this game for the Packers. But the fumble on the goal line was a killer, right? It always is. Fumbles kill drives, kill momentum. That would have made it 17-0. We'd be talking about completely different now. Instead, fumbles it there. Then, well, we know what happened. Ended up, they kicked 2 field goals instead. Not great news, right? Not great news there. Would have had 7 there. So the Josh Jacobs fumble, that hurt. That hurt there. All in all, though, Josh Jacobs had a good day. He had a good day. In total, the run game had a good day, right? When you have 261 yards on the ground there, 53 carries is crazy, right? But 261 yards on the ground, you don't complain about that, right? You don't complain about that. 3rd down efficiency, I thought this was a good number. 3rd down efficiency for the Packers in this one, 10 for 17 on 3rd down. You love that. You love that. Any day of the week, right? Whether it's Jordan Love or Malik Willis, you love that. 10 for 17 on 3rd down. Now, not great was the red zone efficiency. 1 for 3 in the red zone. Colts are 1 for 2. So Packers not even allowing them to get to red zone. That was great, right? But 1 for 3 in the red zone. Not as good of a number, but still solid, respectable, right? 33% there, I believe, right? Not bad. Not bad there. But, excuse me there. All in all, Packers, solid game plan heading in. Matt LaFleur deserves a lot of credit for this win for Green Bay. The offensive line, defense, the defense in total. I thought the defense in total played well. I mean, you're looking at the Colts in this game. 2 for 9 on 3rd down. 1 for 2 on 4th downs. 338 yards in total on the game there. About 6 yards per play in this one here. Passing, 17 for 34 in this one. They had 18 rushing attempts. Still baffles me on that 4th down that they took Taylor out of the game and they had an option play. Eric Wilson had a couple big plays in this one. He had the stop on that option play, right? Had the stop on the option play, and then he had, on the next drive, had the pick for the Packers there. So 2 great drives there from Eric Wilson. Devontae Wyatt was great. I mean, he was great. We talked about this Packers team, what needed to happen on the defense. I said I needed to see more from the defensive front. Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt, they were big. I thought Preston Smith did well. Edgerrin Cooper got some time in there. Lucas Van Ness got some time. I thought the defensive line did well containing Anthony Richardson, right? Not letting him. There were some times where he got out of the pocket and he did his thing. But all in all, I thought the defensive line for Green Bay did a good job keeping Anthony Richardson in the pocket, containing the outside, not letting him get to the outside and run. So I liked what I saw there. But Devontae Wyatt in this one, he had a couple of big plays there. He had a sack. He had, I believe he had a couple of tackles for losses, 2 tackles for losses in this one. He was a game, and he had 2 QB hits in this one, I believe. Yeah, 2 QB hits. He had a sack. He had those 2 tackle for losses in this one. You love that. You love that Devontae Wyatt. He was a game wrecker, right? You got to have your defensive front, whether guys are having good days, sacks. They have a boatload of sacks, or they have a couple tackles for losses. What I want to see in the defensive front sometimes is not the stat of, they had a lot of QB hits or they had a lot of tackles for losses. What I want to see too is being wreckers in the game, blowing up the middle, forcing double teams, whatever you have to do, right? To just negate an offense, to kind of try and, they didn't want to run at Devontae Wyatt at that point, so they're running away from Devontae Wyatt. You want guys in their defensive front who are doing the little things throughout a game that are making them game wreckers, where they're changing up a game plan for the opposing team because they can't get by him. They don't want to go at him because he's blowing up the offensive line on that part. He's blowing up whoever the lead blocker is, and he's blowing up the play, or he's stretching out the option going that direction. So it's getting it's heading towards the sideline, and then your corners have time to get up there and make the play. It's those things that I love to see in the defensive front, and I saw that in Devontae Wyatt today. Those are the things. Same with Kenny Clark. He had 3 tackles, 2 solo tackles in this one. The defensive front for Green Bay stepped up big in this one. I thought they stepped up big. Now, the big plays did hurt, right? Jonathan Taylor, he had multiple big runs in this one, 12 carries for 103 yards. His long was 29. He had multiple big plays for big yardage. And you don't want the big plays to happen, but I thought all in all, the Packers did well. 140 yards on the ground for the Colts. Not great, right? Not great, but the Packers did well controlling the run game for the Colts. Made Anthony Richardson try to make decisions in the passing game. Did well late in this one, right? Pierce had a good game for him there. They did well with Pittman. 3 catches there I believe he had 7 targets for 3 catches there. Secondary, I thought they stepped up. I thought they did well in this one. Valentine had a good day for Green Bay. He had 1 pass deflection in this one. Jair had a pass deflection. Evan Williams did well in the secondary there. You look across the secondary. McDuffie did well in pass coverage in this game. McDuffie, not a guy who's overly fast, but did well in pass coverage there. Javian Bullard had a good day, 5 tackles, 3 of them being solo. A lot of people would say your safety's not supposed to have a lot of tackles. I agree on that, but Bullard's all over the place. You got to remember that. Bullard is all over the place. So some of those tackles resulting up in front of the first down marker there. And then McKinney, solid day out of him there. So all in all, Packers secondary plays well in this one. Defense plays well. I thought Hafley drew up a pretty good game plan. The thing that you got to love, though, the Packers threw a lot of pressure and a lot of blitz packages at Richardson in this one. The thing that I love to see was that they played discipline, right? It wasn't like we were, all in all, just bailing out on plays, right? The Packers front, the Packers linebacker core, they played discipline. They sat back. They still put pressure, but they sat back. They let Richardson make a decision. And then when he did, now we attack. Now we take him. Now we try to stretch a play towards the sideline. We try to keep Richardson from blowing up those big plays by us bailing out, right? So I thought the defense played very disciplined in this game and on the front. So I love that. I love seeing that out of them there. You don't want to, it's never really a thing to say kudos to a punter, but I thought Daniel Whelan had a good game for Green Bay. In a game like this where it's 16-10, right? It's a field goal game. It's a defense game. You got to be able to slow his team down. I thought Daniel Whelan had a good game. I thought he did. I really did. He was, I believe he had 2 punts, pinning the Colts back multiple times there. His long was 59. All 3 of them were inside of the 20-yard line. Daniel Whelan, I mean, I'm not here to say that, the main stat line out of this game is the punter, right? But Daniel Whelan had a good game. He had a good game. So you love to see that. You love to see that out of Daniel Whelan. So Packers play good. I mean, they don't play good, right? The offense did what it had to do, right? This was a game where you went into this, and we talked about it in the pregame show. You didn't expect Malik Willis to light the world on fire. You wish it could happen, right? You wish you could see Malik Willis light the world on fire. But you didn't go into this one saying, I expect the Packers to be able to win this game, put up 31 points, right? This game, we talked about it, it had to be a defensive battle, right? You had to win on the defensive side. You had to win in the trenches. It was one of those games. And I thought that's exactly what the Packers did. That is exactly what they did. They won in the trenches. They won their one-on-ones, right? Everybody loves to talk about, team aspect. I want to see guys win their one-on-ones, right? I thought the Packers won their one-on-ones in this game. They controlled the line of scrimmage. At times, it got out of hand, right? We talked about the Jonathan Taylor breaking off a few big runs there. But all in all, controlled the line, did their job in there. The secondary controlled a pretty good receiving core for the Colts there for a majority of this, right? And, I mean, offense ran the ball, did their job. Josh Jacobs did his job. It's just a good team win. That's what I look at end of the day. Last but not least, last thing I want to say about the Packers Colts for now until we talk about it more here this week. But all in all, a great team win for the Packers. Now you look forward. Maybe Jordan Love comes back this week. I'm going to lean on the side of probably not. I don't know. You don't know. We're not in the room. We're not the doctors here. We're not telling him what he has to and can't do. But you have the Titans coming up, and then you play the Vikings. Will Levis played good enough in this one against a Colts team that I believe is better than the Titans. I think they are, in my personal opinion. So you kept him out. I really do think you keep him out next week, unless if he is like 110% ready to go. There's no question marks, no nothing. You don't have to, because, if you can survive, the biggest thing we talked about was surviving without Love and what had to happen. And I said if he was out for, let's just say 3 games, going 1-2, or at least winning one of those games in that stretch, or if he was out for 4 games, not losing, you can't go 0-4 in that stretch, right? You got to be able to pull off a win there. They pulled off that win. So if you can survive the Titans game with Will Levis at the QB, you bring Jordan Love against the Vikings, because the Vikings look good. I mean, I watched them today against the 49ers. They look good. So you want Jordan Love for that game. You want him 110% for that game, right? I might just say, hey, maybe we keep Love as an option in the Titans game. Maybe he's like 95%. Maybe we really feel like winning this game against the Titans, right? So he's an option in that game. But I'm looking at Malik Willis, and I'm saying, if you're ready to go week 3, we're going to start you. And then if it gets dicey, maybe we move on. But until then, until Jordan Love's 110%, I can roll with Malik Willis for now. Right now, Malik Willis got me to the point where I was talking, hey, if the Packers want to run some option plays or some like Wildcats formations or anything like that, Malik Willis is my guy. Like, I would throw him in there in a Wildcat formation. I would throw him in there in an option play and just let it run wild, because it's like almost like, what the heck was that guy's name from the Saints? Taysom Hill, right? It's like him. I mean, he's your Swiss Army knife, right? Now I don't expect Malik Willis to go out there at wide receiver or play running back. Maybe he could, right? Maybe you could throw him in there at running back. But Malik Willis could be that guy that you could throw out there like a Taysom Hill, where he's looking to run, but he's also got that possibility that he can throw the football, right? So maybe Malik Willis kind of slots into a position like that for the Packers. I don't know. I thought about that watching him play, was that the options and everything like that, he impresses me in those situations. So kind of like that. I kind of like that option there. But Packers get the win over the Colts. Great cap on the weekend there after watching the Badgers kind of struggle there against Alabama. Let's look over at the Brewers real quick, because we saw I just watched the final there. Not a good way to end it. Devin Williams looked kind of upset out there in the bullpen to end that one. I don't know why we didn't just decide to throw Devin Williams out there in that one. Maybe short rest kind of situation. They just won 15-8, so we didn't use Devin Williams yesterday. I don't know why we didn't throw Devin Williams in there in that 10th and just take the series sweep, but it's okay. It's okay, right? You end the road trip. Going 4-2. This was a road trip where we were talking heading into it, made you a little bit nervous, right? Because you had the Giants who were playing well, right? You just saw them at home there not too long ago. You won 2 games in that series. You go on the road, you're facing the Giants, starting a little West Coast swing there. Did well in that Giants series. And then you have the Diamondbacks. And this is a team in the Arizona Diamondbacks who are still fighting for the West. They're still fighting for that NL West. They're still fighting for a spot in the playoffs. This is an all-around a solid team in the Arizona Diamondbacks. Game 1, you win that one 2-1. Pitchers kind of battle there, not a whole lot of offense. Game 2, offensive explosion, right? Something that we've been waiting to see out of the Brewers for a while now because they haven't had one of those games where the offense just says, we got this, right? Don't worry, pitching staff, you can give up 8 runs. We're going to take care of it on the offensive side. This game was, Adames hit a grand slam. He had a 2-home run night there. The offense was a storyline. All in all, offense was a storyline. 16 hits for the Brewers in that game 2 of that series there. Just about everybody had a hit in that one outside of Monasterio, Perkins, and Collins. Monasterio and Collins both coming in pinch hit roles. Outside of that, it was Perkins, who did not have a hit, but you're not going to just completely crap on him because he didn't have a hit in that game. Brewers win that one 15-8. They drop the series finale there, 11-10 in extra innings. We just watched Jared Koenig. It went south fast on Koenig there. And Diamondbacks able to pull off scrounge and try to make it look a little bit better there in that series. So Brewers, I got the Phillies coming up next, right? And this is a series. It means a lot. I know I've said that in the past. I've said it. It seems like every talk we have, I'm talking about how much this series is going to mean to the Brewers. This series for the Brewers means a lot because right now the Brewers are in 3rd place in the NL race right now. Phillies, Dodgers, Brewers. Brewers 4 games back. This series against Phillies, you can jump teams right now. Not jump because the Dodgers would have to lose 3 straight, right? But if you take 2 out of 3 from the Phillies drop back, Dodgers able to hop up or whatever it is there, and Brewers are in very good position playing the Diamondbacks yet after that because they have another series with the Diamondbacks on the docket. So this series against the Phillies, it means a lot because you have the Phillies, Diamondbacks, but then you have the Pirates and Mets. Now the Pirates, they're out of the playoff picture. It seems like I don't know if it's just me, but every single season, the Pirates play spoiler to the Brewers. They love to play spoiler to the Brewers. They love to pull off wins late in the season against the Brewers. So I'm looking at that Pirates series and saying, I don't like that one. I don't like that one late in the year. But they have that series against the Mets. They have 3 road games left. So you're going to have 10 games at home yet to end the season here. You got the Phillies, then you play the Diamondbacks at home, and then you're going to go on the road for the Pirates, but then come back home for the Mets to wrap up the season there. If they get 2 or 3 from the Phillies, you can win that series against the Diamondbacks. I really do believe I'd have to look at the Phillies schedule because I don't know who the Phillies got left on the docket here. The Phillies got the Brewers, the Mets, the Cubs, and the Nationals. The Cubs, it's Craig Timber, right? Maybe the Cubs pull off some wins against the Phillies there, and then we see the Mets rattle off some wins because they're playing for a playoff spot. The Brewers-Phillies series, I say it a lot, but this could be one of those series where you could set yourself up for getting in that 2 seed, right? I want a 2 seed. I really do. I don't want the wild card round. The wild card round for me with this Brewers team makes me nervous. It makes me nervous. I don't like it. I don't want to see it as much as I think that the Brewers could. It's like a double-edged sword for me because I don't like having such a long gap between games because it makes me nervous with this offense because the offense for the Brewers is like it goes hot and then it goes cold, right? It goes hot and it goes cold. I don't want a stretch where we don't play games where this offense starts to go cold. So I'm looking at this series, if they get the 2, you get the bye, you get the automatic pass the wild card round, but also you have time off. If you get the wild card round, maybe you play like the Diamondbacks or something, you play well, your offense gets going, you go into a divisional round, then your offense is cooking, now you're good, right? We watched the Diamondbacks, their offense got hot last season in the playoffs, beat the Brewers, right? And then went on all the way to the World Series. It's one of those years, you know, it feels like one of those years where the Brewers, they have a shot. I just think that the NL picture, the Dodgers are the big bad Dodgers, right? They're the scary Dodgers, and the Phillies are a great team. I think they're a great team, right? But this season, more than any, I just feel like it's wide open. I feel like this season we're going to see a team that we didn't expect go to the World Series. I really do. The records, everything like that, what we've seen so far this year, everything's close. I mean, I can't remember. I mean, it's requiring me to think a lot, but I don't remember a time where I've looked at the standings this late in the season and I've said, wow, that's close. Like, it's just almost like, I mean, you look, Phillies 2.5 games back of the Dodgers. Brewers, they're a game and a half back of the Dodgers there. They're 4 games back of the Phillies. Then we see the Padres, 5.5 games back. They're right behind the Dodgers there. And the Diamondbacks, they're 7 games back of the Phillies. The Braves, 8.5. Mets, 9. Cubs at 14. I mean, they're all right there. Then you look over at the AL picture. Yankees, 1 game up on the Guardians for first place. Orioles sitting 3 games back of the Yankees there. Then you have the Royals, 5 games back, 5.5 for the Astros, 7.5 for the Twins. Everything is just so jumbled together, and there's no record that you look at and you're like, this team is dominating. This team is you don't have that. You usually, when you look at these leagues, you look across the AL and the NL, you have that one team where you're looking at and you're like, this is a dominant team. Like nobody, I don't expect them. If you were a bet man, you would not go into that series and say they're going to mop them. But there's always the chance. But you feel confident. I don't feel confident right now in any one of these teams that they would go into a series against. If the Phillies played the Brewers, I would not feel, if I was a Philly fan, I would not feel 100% positive that my Phillies could pull off that series. Same with the Dodgers. I would not feel that way this season. The Padres are a dangerous team. I'd watch out for them Padres. They're finally starting to put it together. Same with Diamondbacks. That's a dangerous team, right? Braves. You never know with the Braves. As much as it seems like they're out, everybody gets hurt, and yet they're still cooking along. So you got to watch out for them Braves. The Mets, same with them. I don't know where they came from, right? Frank was bailing on them. Frank was coming to Milwaukee to throw out the first pitch. Like, he was done with the Mets. They're 9 games back. They're in the playoff picture. It's just like there's nobody that's pulling away. Nobody that is that dominant. And you're sitting there and you're saying to yourself, there's a chance, right? The door's wide open for the Brewers. What will they do with it? So, I mean, we got lots more to talk about with the Brewers. I'm going to get into them this week here on the show. We got more Packer talk to get to. We got more Badgers talk. Definitely more talks to get to as the week goes on here. But with that, this has been Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trade. Thank you guys for listening. And like I always said, we're starting to go live now. Make sure you guys are commenting in, everything like that. If you missed some of the show and you want to go and listen to it, you can go on the podcast sites, any podcast site there is, Apple, Google, YouTube, whatever it is. You can check out the podcast there. Leave a like, subscribe, follow, leave a review, whatever it is. Let me know anything that you guys thought of the show or anything that you would like me to know moving forward here. Anything we can change on the show, because I definitely am open to opinions and everything like that. But with that, this has been Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trade. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your night. But until we talk to you guys again tomorrow, deuces.